What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron here. I am your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show, and we've got a great show. I'm so excited for today's show. The Art of Vibrant Living. What does that mean? Well, you tell me, because it's your life and it's vibrancy according to your terms. The way I mean it, though, is that you live your best life, that you're passionately alive. And to do that, it's more than just the entertainment. We'll get that part. It's also the application. So, my invitation to you, apply what you learn. Take some of the gems that you get from Kenny today and put them into place in your life. Now, Kenny is also known as the Man Whisperer. He's the founder of MenSpeak CIC, a powerful accredited program that's been holding men's spaces for more than 2 decades. Best-selling author, media voice, spiritual strategist who draws from a remarkable journey. I'm not going to get into that right now because I want to get into that with Kenny live. And speaking of which, you know, Kenny, when I have been thinking about this show and getting ready and excited to speak with you, the 2 phrases that came to mind for me repeatedly are a quotation I love from Sartre, which is coming right back to me. Power is what you do with what's been done to you. And there's a great quip, which is when we heal wounds, they become wisdom, right? And you're the quintessence of turning wounds into wisdom with the added effect of creating peace and joy and presence. And I felt that from you from the first moment we got in contact. So thank you for that. I know that's not an easy journey to take wounds, and you've had some significant ones, and I want to talk about some of that if you're up for it. In any case, thank you so much for being with us.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I love the way you've kicked off already because I just can't wait to go. Shall I tell you what crossed my mind when I heard you say what you
Tell
just
me
said?
everything.
For me, I guess my biggest addiction in my life for many, many decades was thinking and fixing, fantasizing, fearing, fixing the fantasies and the fears. None of it was real anyway. It was all happening in my life. Second guessing what might go wrong so it doesn't go wrong because I'm spinning so many plates as it is anyway. And that was the addiction. I was in the future looking for trouble to make sure the trouble doesn't happen without realizing I'm recreating the trouble that my inner protector knows how to fix. And it was just a distraction and I was never here. Or I was fueled by the past and everything that I've survived or maybe hadn't survived, but I wasn't here. And I needed to not just break the addiction on the thinking, on the fearful thinking and the reacting and the surviving. But what I found out was I needed to meet myself in my dark shadow, in my past. And this is not logical. This is purely emotional. In my past of anything that I might have been suppressing or avoiding or surviving or denying or feeling that I can't deal with. So I'll just shove it back there somewhere because I have to survive. And it was surviving, it wasn't living. And I found that when I can meet myself in the dark shadow, in the pain of it, in the unfelt feelings of it, then not only do I set myself free from there, but I found that it opens up at least the equal and opposite of the gold shadow of what might be. of the goodness that I'd be scared to have, that I might feel is for other people.
Hmm.
Or what it really was for me is the goodness of, if I have this and I lose it, then I may not be able to pick myself up and recreate it and move on again. And this fear of um, gaining or thriving or living safely and with love, that cycle ran me without
Hmm.
me realizing it ran me. Because as a child, my family had to go into hiding. We ran for our lives. We lost everything and we had to start from scratch. And I didn't know that I could do that again, even though
Hmm.
that was as a child. It was very, very real to me. So this unconscious script was running my show, and that's what I had to break the spell on. And then I realized it wasn't just my thinking, but my body was addicted to fear and
Hmm.
adrenaline. And if it wasn't there, I didn't know what badness might come up. So I was pretending to be in control. Does that make sense? Have I jumped in there too quickly and too deeply?
You can't go too deep because the deeper we go, the better for everybody. And I'm a big fan of let's hit the ground running. My first reaction, maybe what you saw on my face, that was, oh man, that's exhausting. People talk about whether it's okay to say the F word or not say the F word and dropping F bombs. But you just dropped the fear and the fixing and the fantasies, and those are some F words. And when I heard all of the mental gymnastics that you described, which of course is not unique to you because we all do it in one way or another, and you brought it forward so clearly. It's just a visceral reminder to me of wow, how we can really whack ourselves out in the mind. So thank you for making it real. And I mean, of course, in a moment, let's talk about well, how did you get out of that, right? But before we get there, let's hang in the tension a little bit more because you said a couple things that it's worth us clarifying or teasing out a little bit. One, I want to come more to your story because that was an important piece of your childhood. And though you brought up, I'm not even sure now if you use the word because we speak the same language so well, shadow, right? And the things that we hide or repress or can't deal with, don't want to deal with, the things from our past that we sweep under the carpet. That's a great survival tool. It's really wonderful that we have that ability. However, it locks us into surviving and not living. And you did a beautiful twist on loss aversion. I had never thought of that before. That part of human nature, like it's harder to lose something. We're more attached to not losing something than to gaining something, and how fear of losing it again can actually keep us from creating what we want. All that said, let's rewind a moment. And would you say a bit more about what shadow means and how it works? Because it's not a part of everybody's conversation every day, right? What does it really mean, and how does it work?
Rather than giving a concept, I
Hmm.
wonder about giving a very personal story,
Please.
where about it was last August before my wedding anniversary, and my wife and I were going to take the day off to just hang out. She had hay fever,
Hmm.
and that day was probably one of the worst days of my adult life because, cut a long story short, at some stage she turned on me with absolute rage and hate, and I'd never seen such anger. And all I could do was take it, and I was too broken to cry. or anything. It came out of nowhere. And then from there, she was talking about taking her own life. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on? She's lost it. And what I usually say to myself, to people I work with, whatever, is breathe myself present, take care of my child rather than offering it to someone else. And let the man in me who's present meet whoever's in front of me. But in a situation like that, I was in such shock and so broken that I couldn't do any of that until later. I just couldn't. I could just be with her in that shock, feeling the rug had been pulled from, feeling like someone pulled a plug from my belly and my whole intestines just fell out, and that was the end. It was absolute hell. We found out about 2 weeks later that this was a reaction to the medication that she'd been taking. And the small print said there might be suicidal ideation and violence and rage and stuff like that. That's what the small print said, and thank God we found out what it was. And my wife's perimenopausal, but I take everything that she says like it's true. I'm not going to say, oh, that's because of that and that's because of that. I'm going to meet her. And I took that on. And it really, really hurt. And when I came to, I could be present and hold my child safe. And I could meet her. And it's not chasing her for a conversation or to fix it. It's being in my space and respecting her space. And the big thing that I could do, and this is one of the most important things that I do, and that I share with the people I work with in my groups, etc., is feel that feeling, breathe into that feeling. And when I breathed into the feeling, then follow the feeling back. And this isn't logical. This is purely through emotional lines. And when I followed the feeling back in a split second, I was back to being a very, very young boy, probably the age of 4, 5. And my godmother, I was born in Africa, I was born in Uganda. My godmother would faint, and I'd sit by her bedside, and I'd be petrified that she's going to die. And I'd wait to see if she moved, or if she wanted something, so I could, I don't know, bring her whatever she wants so she doesn't die. So I was a very, very, very scared and helpless little boy sitting next to a woman that I loved, my godmother. And I flashed straight back there, being totally helpless in front of the woman that I love, not knowing what's going on or how to fix it. And I realized that that's my dark shadow. I knew that story, but I never felt those feelings. And this was a catalyst to take me back into my dark shadow and a place where I needed to meet myself. And I know that the safe way to meet myself there is for the man in me to be present, the child inside safe, then I can follow the feeling, and that doesn't take me over, but I can safely feel it and be with that child in that situation, feeling those feelings, and set that free and bring it back here. And since then, things have opened up in love, with my wife, with my relation. It's like something that I didn't realize I was carrying is just gone, and things have opened up even more in life. So I can be grateful for that. I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone. But whenever people come to groups or people come to see me or to have a chat, whatever it is, whatever's going on, it's like, yeah, I totally respect and accept what's going on. And I wonder where the fuel is coming from. I wonder why life has brought this up. And I don't know whether you guys know an old singer from the 70s called Engelbert Humperdinck. And he did a song, Please Release Me, Let Me Go. And it's like, I wonder what life is saying, here you go. Now you get to feel whatever it is that needs to be released so it can let you go. And you can live life in alignment with love. And let's see what life will bring you now.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, personal. I could feel the intensity of that situation when you were there with your wife in the midst of her anguish. And what you described is what it relates to for me is my aim in life, or one of them, I should say, is to be trigger happy. And what I mean by that is that when I am triggered, which happens on a regular basis, pretty much every day in, small or large ways, I know I've had enough experiences that that trigger, which the way you described it is a callback to something else. And so when when you flash back to being there with your godmother and experience those feelings that were probably overwhelming to you as that little boy that you couldn't handle, so you pushed them down in some way, right? Part of what I got, and tell me if this is accurate, is that as a man now, in the container that you built for yourself in that moment to travel back in time and be there, you were able to meet that boy and those feelings and to, I don't know what would be the right word, to free yourself, to release them, to let the trauma go, to heal, to integrate. What would you say?
To move back in and to bring
Hmm.
him back with me.
Hmm.
Because that was no man's land,
Hmm.
lost in space.
Hmm.
And I had an opportunity to reclaim that space
Hmm.
and to reclaim that fear, that trauma, that stuff in limbo. And at that frequency of fear, there's the frequency of love as well.
Hmm.
So it's like access to more of love or God or frequency of whatever it is you call it. So more access to life, I guess. More access to the magic that life might bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice.
And
Beautifully
it's
said.
totally on a feeling level. It's feeling. It's all feeling. It's not logical. It's not fixing. It's not, what's the word? Some sort of trickery or, there's a very common word that I can't think of right now. A technique. I
Hmm.
guess it is just by breathing and feeling, but, it's not a technique. It's my emotions. It's
Yeah.
it's my life. It's my being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what I hear is you also, one, you had the awareness. Okay, there's something more here. It's not just about this thing, right? Two, you had the presence and the courage and the intention to actually consciously breathe, right? To say, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna. I don't know if this is the way you do it. The way I do it, okay, I'm gonna increase my breathing because I can feel it when I start to get worried or afraid, and I go, I'm just gonna close down my breathing. I'm gonna shut it down. I'm not gonna feel anything. And in those moments when I can catch it and go, okay, let me breathe into this. Okay, bring it on. Let's go.
Yeah.
So you had that, and it is so simple. It's like, so because I'm with you on some level. It's not a technique. It's just meeting what was there to meet then that we were not able to meet at that moment. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't easy to break the addiction of not breathing
Mm,
because the
mm,
more, when I'm thinking, especially with fear, I'm not breathing.
mm, mm,
My inner protector, my fear, it's lived in my head. It still lives in my head. Now it doesn't run my life. Now it can inform me. It can inform the man in me who is present and connected here and now. And the information's useful to guide me, to give me information so I know which next step might or might not be a good step. But it doesn't own me or control my life. But the breaking the spell on not breathing, I know that one of the reasons I didn't breathe, apart from fearful thinking, was because it was safer to be invisible.
mm,
And if I'm not breathing, then I won't be drawing attention to myself. And if I'm invisible, then I'm going to be safer.
mm.
I'm not going to be in trouble or a target or picked on in any way. So there was that. I needed to show up in life. And initially, I came up with this line that I used to use with myself, which was, I would be aware that I'm in that place, lost in the space between my ears, thinking, fearing, fixing, and it's got me. And I would believe that I'm that close to an answer, to the answer. And I had to admit to myself that I have never found any answer through thinking,
Hmm.
apart from maybe crossing the road, things like that. But other than that, I had to admit that in all these decades, it's never worked.
Hmm.
And that information is enough permission to stop that, but the addiction was still there.
Hmm.
So then I had to remind myself that in that split second, when I think I need to stop thinking, that's when I need to take the breath. So what I would do is I'd catch myself, and then instantly I would take a deep breath in to include my head, get in my body, get here and now.
Hmm.
And as I breathed in, I would think, thank you for reminding me who I used to be.
Hmm.
And the gratitude is to my protector,
Hmm.
who literally saved my life in the past when I was in danger. So that's not the enemy. There is gratitude for that. But if I carry on that way, then it's costing me my life. So, of course, it's gratitude. And who I used to be was that addict surviving. And it's used to be. So it's in the past. And then as I breathed out, I would take part in what's in front of me, because that's here and now. It doesn't need to be something big or clever. It's simply what's in front of me, and engage. And that was the first way that I learned to break the spell.
Hmm.
And then I came up accidentally with a couple of other games.
Hmm.
One of them was to bring me into my environment. And to come into my environment, it would be okay, every time I hear a bird sing, or a child, or a car horn, every time I see a blonde woman, or a red car, or a bald man, every time I go through a doorway, or I see a doorway, and I would put things up in my environment. So I am taking part in my environment and not just in my head. So that brought me here and now.
Hmm.
And life, I could see what life is bringing me, and it's always bringing me signs, temptations, gifts, clues, opportunities, so I can be guided by life. So it got me here, plugged back into life, so I could take part and grow into a bigger, better life out of Groundhog Day. And then I thought, okay, that's the environment, that's the outer environment. There's also my inner environment, there's my body.
Hmm.
And with my body, it was every time I itched or coughed or sneezed or gurgled or burped or farted, anything that my body did would be a reminder, my body reminding me to take a breath right now and get here and now.
Hmm.
And it's just like I needed less and less reminders, because it's just normal to move in and be here safely.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just made up some games and here we are.
Oh, it's beautiful, and I mean, and the way you describe the games that you made up, it's a perfect combination of Zen Buddhist techniques married with positive psychology, and part of the way I think of it, a phrase that I love for myself and with clients is, I create my environment, and my environment creates me. Right. So what I hear you did is you set up reminders for yourself. You said, I'm gonna use all of this to help me to be present. Right. That's beautiful.
You've reminded me of something really important there, and
Hmm.
that is so spot on. And I realized that I and the people around me, looking at the people around me, we're all products of our environments.
Hmm.
And not only are we products of our environments, as in town, neighborhood, family, we're products of the vibe at home,
Hmm.
the energy in school,
Hmm.
the atmosphere on the streets, as well as my inner environment. What am I telling myself? What am I feeling? What's going on? So I kind of realized that if I am going to be a product of my environment, then it's up to me to take charge of my environment. Not necessarily in a controlling way, but in a kind way. So then I can be a product of an environment that I would like to be a product of,
Mm-hmm.
rather than fighting against it and not taking responsibility for it. It's like, well, here's a very basic opportunity, may as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I remember years ago reading, was it, I'll think of the author's name, but the book was called Outliers. And one of the things he described in that book, Malcolm Gladwell, described that many of the people who create extraordinary lives, one of their characteristics is they have a readiness to mold environments to their suiting, right? As whereas a lot of people, they go into a room and they unconsciously assume, well, this is the way it must be. This is how it is, so this is the way it must be, right? And what you described is that outlier tendency to come into a room and say, well, okay, that desk is over there and that sofa is over there, but we could change those, right? And we could make something that suits who I'm choosing to be, right? That's art, that's
Yeah,
possibility, that's evolution. Yeah.
yeah. It's alignment.
Hmm.
It's I used to do feng shui
Hmm.
for a living for a while,
Hmm.
and it was, it wasn't just moving potted plants and stuff. It was literally acupuncture for life. That would stimulate different areas of life in a way that acupuncture meridian lines would stimulate
Hmm.
internal organs and
Hmm.
etc. etc. And it wouldn't just work through space. Through space, it would also work through time. So first, this would need to change because there's a safe foundation, and then the next bit would need to come because then that's something to practice and deal with, and then these opportunities need to come, so life could like test who are you and where are you going. So it was literally programming the environment for things to open up in time and space, totally tuned in to the person's home or business it was,
Hmm.
keeping them in alignment between heaven and earth. And the
Hmm.
more grounded in here I am, the higher I can get and the more that can come down, preferably out of my control. Because if it's in my
Hmm.
control,
Hmm.
I've already had it before
Hmm.
and it's in the bag for me to draw from and choose from. But if it's out of my control or on the edge, that's where I grow. That's what the edge is for. That's not, I remember once when I did a parachute jump,
Hmm.
I thought, oh, it'll just be easy. At some stage, they'll open the hatch, I'll close my eyes, and I'll just run out and it'll all be fine. It wasn't like that. They opened the hatch, and I was holding on, and the plane was going around and around until they said, now let go. It wasn't closing my eyes and jumping out there. It had to be done consciously at the right time in the right way. And for me, this is what it's about, being on the edge consciously. And it's like, what feels true? What are my opportunities? And then maybe listening to my protector with the fears and
Hmm.
thinking, well, that's useful information. Now, what is my next step? And after
Hmm.
the next step, from this paradigm, what's true? Do I stay still? Do I step to the right, to the left? Do I move forward? Do I move back? Do I just ask a question? Do
Hmm.
I run for my life? Do I just jump or fly or dance or something?
Okay, perfect. Because you brought back for me something that I wanted to. I was thinking about this before we even got on the show together. I thought of it when you were speaking earlier. You described that intense experience you had with your wife and how you wouldn't wish that on anybody, right? And one of the things that I know about you is you have a great ability to facilitate groups in such a way that it creates an atmosphere of safety, right? Um, and there's a saying that life begins where our comfort zone ends, right?
Mm.
And and you just described in beautiful detail, and I flashed on my first time I went on what do you call that thing with a swing? It's not a parachute. It's a trapeze.
Not a bun. Oh,
Trapeze.
you've done that.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so just like you, the first time I did the trapeze, I climbed all the way up the thing. I'm in a harness. There's a big net underneath me. I'm standing on the platform and I'm holding this big bar. And the guy says, "Go ahead." And I heard him. And I'm holding the bar. And I know that I'm harnessed in. And there's a big net underneath me. There's no danger. 2 different ways, there's no danger. I've seen 50 people go. I wouldn't move at first. So, right, I got my own many associations with that. And what you described in that experience, though, was that you found a line between, okay, here's a danger, but how can I approach it in a measured way or create some safety, some level of comfort in the discomfort? And part of why I'm asking this, Kenny, is because my sense is the world culture right now, that there is a certain aspect of our population that is trying very hard to create comfort everywhere, to create safety everywhere, right? And and if you say something or look at me in a way where I feel uncomfortable, then I want you banned or I want you taken away.
Yeah.
So what's your sense of how do we work with that individually and as a culture?
It's scary times. And I would say probably 60% of my clients are male. And every day I'm in groups with men, so I'm around a lot of men. And I would say it's very scary times for men because we have testosterone. We don't have an expanse of thoughts and reasoning. That's like a minefield for a lot of men of gonna get it wrong, gonna be in trouble, better keep quiet. Because if I get it wrong and I'm in trouble, it could be the end of my career. I could be shamed. I could, for me, the 2 things that control and rule men, I would say, are a fear of abandonment and a fear of humiliation. Getting this wrong, it could be the both in one breath. And I would say a tragedy is the way that so many people are scared to say anything, because it's not like they're going to be lovingly educated or where their motives are going to be explored so there can be more awareness and more choice. It's more, you're in trouble, you're bad, you're wrong, you're the enemy, and now something bad has to happen to you. So there is the getting in trouble for saying and doing something wrong. And also, I am not on this planet to be happy all the time. I'm not, skipping through fields of daisies would bore me after the first quarter mile, irrespective of the weather. I'm here to experience life and to feel my feelings, good, bad, and ugly, happy and sad, grief, loss, joy, excitement. That's real life. That's taking part in life. I'm here to be, and this is where the groups come in, to be so lost and so lonely that I can go somewhere and say to people, this is what's going on in my life. And I just feel really lost and lonely. And this happened a lot over lockdown, for example, because we had a lot of suicidal men come into the room. And as soon as they said and had the courage to say, I'm thinking of taking my life, or I've come to say goodbye and I'm probably not going to be here tomorrow. The facilitator, one of the first things they'd probably say would be, has anyone been here before? And as soon as hands are raised, it's like, oh my God, I'm not alone. So not only has someone else been here, but look at them, they seem normal. So suddenly that thinking, I've tried to fix everything, I've tried everything, the only thing that's left is for me to remove myself from the situation. And I've been there. I've flirted with suicide so many times in my life, and the first time was when I was 7, 8 years old, when we were refugees, and I just thought it might be easier for the family to have one less mouth to feed. So, for many reasons, logically, beyond pain, it's like, well, I haven't tried that.
Mm.
But for people to be met in their pain, and for other people, and for people to be able to say, when I was there, this is how I succeeded. This is
Mm.
what I tried. This is how I failed. Not you should do this and you should do that, but sharing our own experiences so we're in it together.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's worth its weight in gold. And there's something about men and boys who need to be part of. Exclusion, being banished beyond the city walls, is hell and death. And maybe it's a primal thing because, then the wolves are going to get you. But to be in it together, to me, that's true brotherhood.
Mm.
That's true caring and sharing. And for me, that's life. That's life. I do not wish to be alone unless I wish to be alone for a bit. But my life is in community with good boundaries. And as an ex nice guy or a member of the victim club or a person who was brought up to take care of the emotions of others and be indispensable and never abandoned, etc., etc., I had no boundaries. I wasn't brought up with boundaries. I thought boundaries were barriers. I didn't realize that boundaries were intimate places
Mm.
where people can meet and then they can shift and shift and shift. And the main reason I didn't have boundaries was I didn't actually even exist. I would be whoever I thought people wanted or needed me to be, so then I'd be acceptable and I'd be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautifully said. Um, Community, brotherhood, men. That's right there. And since it's come up again, this early part of your life as a refugee, born in Uganda, um, under the reign of Idi Amin, which probably a lot of people these days don't know who that is or what happened. Would you give us a little trip down not such a nice memory lane to help us understand what your experience was? Ah, well, that question might have been so obnoxious or challenging that it froze Kenny for a moment. But he's back. He's
I
back.
think we're back.
I thought maybe I asked a question I shouldn't have asked and it broke the internet. Um,
That was a high energy question.
a high energy question. Forgive me. Forgive me. Did
Did
it
break the internet.
did
But
did it
I
come
can tell you
across?
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 totally.
Okay. Okay.
So I was 7. I was born in Uganda. My mother was born in Uganda. My father was born in Kenya.
Hmm.
My mother ran the Catholic bookshop in Uganda that actually supplied all the universities and schools, all the churches, etc., etc. And my father was at that stage head of the parcel department for the Uganda Post Office.
Hmm.
Um, we're not sure who it was who wanted to kill us. There may be more than one party, but my father was getting people kind of safe. There were a lot of beatings near death. There were people that he smuggled manuscript of. I don't remember the name of the book, a very famous book out of the country about what was really going on. There was a place where people would be sent in the forest and they'd never come out alive. And he went in there to get people out saying, this isn't government business, this is post office business, we'll deal with them. And he had a friend in the Secret Service that he was in school with who said, your name is now high on the death list. We've never known each other and I can have nothing to do with you. So he was a good guy. He was a hero. He did a lot of good. And I remember one night we had a phone call saying, we're going to come and kill you tonight. And my father, by then my grandparents, my family's originally from Goa. My grandparents went back to Goa. which was no long ago. It was part of India. It used to be Portuguese. And it was my parents, my aunt, my godmother, and her husband. And I think one of the servants might have been there as well. And we took the phone call, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And my father made a joke of it, thinking, well, that's weird. Why would anyone phone? What a dumb joke. And of all things, they phoned back and said, we're going to come and kill you tonight. It's not a joke. And that's when, they kind of like searched the veranda, the grounds a bit, and we went into hiding in my godmother's house. And there was a lot of danger. The phones were tapped before then. We were followed. I had toy walkie-talkies. We'd have some in our car. My godmother had some in her car. Should we turn right? Should we turn left? We heard gunfire there, but there might be an ambush down that road. How should we get home without being killed? Type thing on a regular basis. Um, then cut a long story short, because my father was on the death list and he had a Kenyan passport. We had British passports. Um, I remember the day he said to me, you may never see me again after tomorrow. You're the head of the family now. Take care of your mother and brother." So that's me on duty. And we were lucky to get out of the country. And he got smuggled to Italy when they were waiting to pick him up with the same airport to go to Kenya. And then we had refugee camps. Before then, we had to keep away from all our friends because then they'd get contaminated. They'd know who we're in touch with. In those days, you weren't even allowed to stop in the streets and have a conversation because it would be plotting against the government.
Hmm.
There was curfew, so you'd better be home or wherever it is you need to be by curfew. And the soldiers were given power and drugs. So there were rapes and lootings and beatings and everything else. It was absolute hell. And then in refugee camp, we didn't speak any of the Indian languages. We were going Catholics and very different. And we were actually treated different at the airport for being Catholic. And so then somehow I had to protect my family at the age of 7 from racism and harassment from people whose languages we didn't even understand who were in refugee camp with us. So it was hellish. And I guess it was in those years that I started with I guess, PTSD. I had obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette's, trichomania, I had twitch and grunt, eating issues, etc., etc. And these are the things that I taught myself to undo
Hmm.
so I could be less of an embarrassment and more normal. I
Hmm.
just wanted to be normal and invisible and for no one to necessarily know my past so we could just wipe that away and I could be normal. So yeah, it was very full on for many, many years. And then being the only family of color in the area, I kind of felt like I represented the rest of the world. And this is a very, very small coastal town in rural West Wales. So I was brought up with farmers and very loving, caring people.
Hmm.
And we chose it. My father ended up um, running 3 refugee camps in Italy, organizing a hunger strike, and then running a refugee camp in the UK when he came over here. And we chose, luckily, it came up, a small town in Wales that was Catholic. It was the crossing to Ireland, so I was brought up with Welsh, English, Irish, um, and it was Italians, and it was just home. It was normal, and I just pretended and tried to be as normal as possible. So I'm very lucky with the way that the community accepted us,
Hmm.
and because I represented the rest of the world, and I couldn't bring trouble to my family. We were on our knees. We didn't know how to cook or clean or shop or take care of ourselves in any shape or form. Our neighbours taught us. I had to be good. I had to swallow it up, not have any issues, take care of my brother, take care of my mother, like my father told me, and to an extent, take care of him too. That was duty. And that duty just carried on. I got programmed into that, like I was programmed before all of that to take care of the women. I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
my the eldest living with my grandparents, so I was the golden boy, which means I couldn't do anything wrong
Hmm.
because I couldn't bear any criticism. Well, I guess it could be called toxic femininity,
Hmm.
which would be abandonment, humiliation, withdrawal, criticism. I couldn't bear any of that. So I had to be that golden child, really not exist, do the right thing, and survive. It's a lot to unlearn, a lot of rewiring to be done.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot that we could dive into with that. What the first thing that comes to me though is what clearly it must have been an incredible journey. I mean, one to survive that, two to get yourself in that duty mode and shut down the aberrations and the twitching and all of that and be the good boy that you needed to be for everybody else. And then three, to unwind and free yourself of all of that. What, when you think about that healing journey for you, what is the, like, what's one of the most potent moments where you turned toward healing or freedom or light or love?
This is a bit disgusting, but I'll tell you the story. Um, I ended up working with dying men,
Hmm.
Mother Teresa's Home for the Dying,
Hmm.
and we'd chat sometimes and stuff, and it was very hard work, and I cried a lot, and I was still obsessive compulsive, and it was working with these men in the most horrendous situations that got me over the obsessive compulsive disorder,
Hmm.
which you could say an addiction or a need to control when things were emotionally out of control. But and some of them spoke English, and I just got on, beyond language. I got on with these dying men, and they were dying. You could accept that they have a very different relationship to death, and we could laugh, and we could, just do stuff, hang out in a strange way. And in the mornings, they would go and shower. Of them would need to be taken and helped and whatever. And we would strip their clothes and their beds. And there was all sorts of goo and gunk and God knows from their sores and their wounds and their orifices that would be in this huge, like, bubbling cauldron that we'd stir in the boiling water, and it was this like metal thing, and we'd use the ash as disinfectant to clean the metal crockery and stuff. And I remember for some reason I wasn't with the guys, I wasn't with the men, and I was used to being with the men, and I was stirring this thing, and there was a splash, and a drop of that went in my mouth, and in that moment, for an obsessive compulsive, I died. And after that, it's like, how could I do obsessive compulsive? I have been to the worst, most disgusting. I remember there was this one guy who was totally off his trolley. And he was dying, and I was dedicated to saving his leg. They wanted to send him to the what do you call it, the lepers colony to chop us off, and it's like, no, I don't want. There's no reason to chop his leg off. We can save this. Not that I knew anything about medicine or anything at all. So for an OCD, it's like I didn't even think about this, and I was given a metal bowl and some Dettol, and his leg was kind of on a thing in the middle of it, and one by one, with tweezers, I was taking the maggots out of the rotting wounds, and his whole leg was moving because it was alive with maggots. And yeah, the maggots were eating the rotten whatever. Um, and and he was just singing and laughing and talking and God knows what, happily off his trolley, not barely taking any notice. He was actually, the men and women were totally separate, but there was this one kind of like homeless woman who'd help on both sides and the nuns, and he'd be leching after the nuns and this woman, flirting. It's totally off his trolley. And I would be taking out the maggots from his leg and putting them on the edge that literally swim across the Dettol to try and, it's like, what is going on here? But it's things like that. Another human being in incredible vulnerability. And there is only one thing that I could do, that anyone could do there, and that's love. And that's what shifted everything.
That's beautiful. Beautiful and disgusting and horrifying and enlightening. And, there's that one way of describing freedom is it's nothing left to lose. And I picture you in that moment of the drop of that brew popping into your mouth. And at that point, nothing left to lose, right? You just came in, you just ingested the worst of it.
I'll carry on stirring, but I might drop dead. But hey, too late.
Well, and there's another little phrase that came to mind for me is somewhere I heard that love can be defined as comfort with other people's body fluids, right? Which is kind of weird, and it can go
well weird.
It can go into you could take it into the sexual realm. You could take it into the people are dying realm. You could take it into the baby realm, and there's all kinds of body fluids. And even when I've thought of that phrase before, and okay, it's weird and gross, but there's something to it. You added another layer to that, though. Picturing you with the maggots and doing what needed to be done from love, and that's beautiful and inspiring. So thank you for crossing that chasm as that young man that you were then, and thank you for bringing it forward. It's inspiring for me. I'm every day I'm asking the question, how can I be more love in the world? How can I express more love? To me that's the game. That's what we are here for. So you raised the bar for me. Thank you.
I would say that is just my experience of you. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, we're sitting here in love. Not overdoing it, not underdoing it, just showing up with it and to it.
Yeah.
And for me, this is my being. And my survival was fearful doing. There was no being. And for me, my being now exists. And I can meet life and people with love at boundaries. And some boundaries with people who have been in my life. The reason the relationship works is you can no longer come anywhere near me. And with that boundary, there can be love and the relationship can work. But that's a boundary. And I would say, from my being, my doing is an extension of my being, and that way can come from love. And that's very much I am. And I am in power and able to empower others. And that's love. Where before, it was all about am I, rather than I am. Am I safe? Am I appropriate? Am I acceptable? Am I in trouble? Am I doing the right thing? Am I cool? Am I popular? And all the power was going out. I didn't exist. No one could meet me. And it was fearful manipulation.
I'm exhausted again. Thank you. Yeah. Well, and that's a beautiful distinction. I never heard it that way before, Kenny, the difference between I am and am I, right? And that's the difference between self-authorship, as Robert Keegan would describe it. That's writing our own story, defining who we are, defining our being, or fearfully looking for some level of acceptance or validation from the outside. So it's a beautiful distinction in two words, and it's just the order of those words. I am and am I, ? So beautiful. Kenny, time is on our side and ticking along. So, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you would like to bring forward here today?
Right now, not that I can think of.
Okay.
I can't believe how much we've covered.
Hmm.
Stories and places and little tricks and techniques, and I can't think of anything. It's been great to hang out. It's been very normal to hang out with you, actually.
Hmm.
I love the way that we've just slipped into this zone and shared the buzz. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, my brother, I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Hopefully you'd be willing to come back again so we can actually talk about the men's world and men's work because it's an area of passion for me as well. And we're now going to move to the big question, the final question. If you're willing for me to ask it, dun, 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 drum roll, please. You've got so much experience and wisdom, and if I were to ask you to, if you had to distill it, bring it down to just one thing to share with our audience to help them live their most vibrant, thriving life, what would be that one thing?
For me right now, what crossed my mind is people often want to be over there, fixed and sorted, where for me, it's over here, exactly in this moment, right here and right now. So there are two steps to this. The first step is for me to always breathe myself back here. It's not what do I need to do or undo or know or fix or blame so I can fix that. It's like I can breathe myself right here in alignment with myself, authentic and in love. And that's wonderful. And then people like to manifest things, but very often it's if I have this money or this whatever it is on my arm or my car or whatever, then I'll be fine. For me, the way that I've learned to manifest is if I can feel the way that I wish to feel when I have these whatever it is, if I can feel that feeling right here, and it's literally time travel. It's like time travel back to the dark shadow to set it free. Time travel forward to feel that feeling and bring that feeling here, then whatever it is that I need to open my heart more, to love more, to be more, to share more, then the world, the universe will provide it. It's just up to me to receive it and to take part in it.
Hmm.
And for me, it's all in the breath.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Breath is life. For the second time as you were speaking, I thought of one of my heroes, a guy named Ram Dass, was famous in the late 60s for a book called Be Here Now. And then much less known was a funny Kirtanwala guy who wrote sort of a sequel book that was titled It's Here Now, Are You? Right? And so several times as you were speaking, I thought you are a living invitation to be here now and a vibrational reminder that it's here now, which is life and joy and everything that we want. So thank you again for your courage and bravery in turning those wounds into wisdom and for being such a radiant gift to the world. And thank you for taking this time to be with us.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Awesome. All right. And y'all, audience, friends, brothers and sisters, children of God, thank you for being interested in more vibrancy in your life, for investing this time with us, for sharing some heartbeats. I hope that you take some of what you've learned, what you felt, and bring it into your life. Breathe yourself into the next part of your life. Thank you. I love you. See you later. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.